أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعلني وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي واشدد به أزري وأشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. I mean, hello everyone. Inshallah, we're gonna start the rays, a new section in the rays, which is the second ray, the third station. And just a little recap on the prior week's discussion we had was about affirmation of divine unity. And the author kind of presented to us different scenarios, and we kind of delved into it in a way that in order for us, our human side, to actually read and see how creation is happening, to understand that everything is coming from the unique, the source of existence, and we can really see that everything is coming from that single being. And one of the examples that was used was how the universe is functioning. And as an example, a carpet example was used where each knot in the carpet that exists must exist within the whole universe. So if there was no knot in that one single knot, then the whole universe would collapse. There wouldn't be anything, but everything is so intricate and working harmoniously that each and everything is there deliberately. That shows that everything is needed for the whole universe to function the way it is. And let's go on and see, inshallah, what this third station kind of takes us into. And this is, of course, the whole journey of divine unity, this whole section of the rays. But I wanted to pause a little bit to see if anybody else would want to say anything or something they recall or wanted to touch upon from last week. All right, if not, let's start with this one then. Bismillah. So the third station. In this station, three universal signs of the affirmation of divine unity will be explained. So three universal signs of the affirmation of divine unity will be explained. The signs, proofs, and evidences of divine unity are incalculable. So the signs, proofs, and evidences of divine unity are incalculable, since thousands of them have been explained in detail in the Illuminating Lamp. In this third station, three universal proofs are set forth briefly. So three proofs will be presented among the incalculable thousands that have been explained, evidences and proofs, since this is the fourth volume of this author. So this is one of his main topics always, is to bring about that your recognition that everything is coming from that single source, that there's divine unity at play at every moment in our lives, in our living here. So the first sign and proof. The phrase, "He is one." The phrase, "He is one," is the conclusion of this. So I'm assuming the phrase, "He is one," is the conclusion of this sign and proof. This is the first sign and proof. So there's a unity in everything. There is a unity in everything, and unity points to one. Unity points to one. Yes, a work that has unity self-evidently proceeded from one maker. A work that has unity self-evidently proceeded from one maker. One proceeds from one. That's an interesting sentence. One proceeds from one. Yes, a work that has unity self-evidently proceeded from one maker. One proceeds from one. The fact that there is a unity in everything demonstrates that they are the works and artifacts of a single being. The universe is like a rosebud, swathed in 1,000 veils of unity. So the universe is like a rosebud, swathed in 1,000 veils of unity. Or it is a single macroanthropos dressed in unities to the number of divine names and universal divine works. So the universe is a single macroanthropos dressed in multiple unities to the number of divine names and universal divine works. Or the universe is a tuba-tree of creation, on the branches of which are hung unities to the number of realms of creatures. It's a pretty heavy introduction to me, to this first sign and proof. And I think I'll need all of your help to decipher this. So the phrase "he is one" is the conclusion of this. I think this is basically what the author thinks, is that whatever your understanding will come to, you will understand that he is one. It will be the conclusion. And then he says, whatever, look around you, there is a unity in everything. And the unity points to one. So what is exactly unity? If anybody would like to share their understanding on how they understand unity. Because unity to me shows that, for example, there's a very well-managed team, and it shows that they're working all perfectly in harmony. They're really talking to each other properly, and communication is good, and they're delivering the results accordingly. And you say, this must have a very well-managed, there must be a good manager who is managing this. It's coming from that particular coach or manager, from that, whatever that team, let's say basketball team. So the universe in general, if you look at the plant kingdom, animal kingdom, human kingdom, the order, the way the things are in the universe, everything talks to each other, but we may not see them, but everything is in constant communication, and their silent speech is going on within the universe. We may not see that, but even look at the plants or flowers, there is the sign of unity that shows that whoever is making one of these plants must be the one who gives existence to all these plants. Whoever gives existence to one fish in the sea is the one who gives existence to all the fish and the sea creatures in the sea. Whoever gave existence to that one cloud must be the one who gave existence to all the clouds and all the skies and the whole planets and stars. So in general, everything, the whole universe shows that it is the work of a single being, because whoever gave existence to one atom must be the one who gave existence to the whole universe. So I'll just pause here again if anybody would like to speak to this. because I'm just here learning with all of you as well. Osman, go ahead, man. Osman, did you want to speak, or I saw your hand up? Wazi? Sarah Lalin, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. So, what came to me was what Brother Ali shared the last time. I'm not sure what day it was that was shared about absoluteness. And it just reminded me of the word one. And I had the connection that was fresh from last week of ahad and one, but ahad being seeing that the things that we're interacting with daily point to a source that is beyond. And so that's just about the first sentence. So that's what came to me to just sit with for the rest of the discussion. And then the part about unity, mashallah, like you said, Asim, that there's an interconnectedness where one proceeds from one. So we have a very big tree outside my window, and like from a branch comes another branch, and from another branch is another branch, and all the roots come through the soil. So there's this proceeding, a mother and then a small being, and then maybe more small beings after that. There's this order of creation where we're seeing one proceed from one. And I'm again keeping this with the backdrop or the background of this absolute being, because whoever can bring one is already a miracle. But then when we see one after one after one after one, like the rose petals is a perfect example. I believe it said something about the rose petals, a rosebud, and 1,000 veils of unity, because it's one petal, and then there's an unfolding of another and another and another, all intertwined, but they have one stem. And I don't know, maybe that's analogy for this. Like maybe the rose is an analogy for the universe, how it's so interconnected. Every living being, every being is so interconnected. And it's all proceeding from a single one that must be beyond. That's absolute, which points to that first sentence. I didn't know what macroanthropos, it sounds like a very interesting word. I just tried to Google it, but I don't think anything came that was clear. But if I knew what that word meant, maybe that would be some place to keep going. And that's just as far as I can share for now.
Thank you so much, Sarah Lalin, for sharing your thoughts. Yeah, to connect it to the Qul huwallahu ahad, the word ahad, he is one. That's like a conclusion also as we read that verse. And then it builds up accordingly. The qualities get unfolded. Allahu Samad, Lam Yalid, with each and every, layer and layer upon layer gets unfolded from that conclusion of he is one. Yeah. And regarding that word macroanthropos, I think it's a technical word. I understand it as like a single big, huge body, or like a universe can be seen as a macroanthropos. Right. Thank you, HB, a macro human being. So it's like just like a human being works, everything in a human being works intricately, works in harmony. We just don't realize it, but our memory, our reasoning, our heart, feelings, they all are working together with each other as a human. But that's what makes us a human being. And the rest of the physical things within the human being also are just are made to work as well along, your heart is pumping, alhamdulillah, and then your blood circulation is going. In the previous section, I think we read how the red blood cells and white cells, everything is just moving around in perfect coordination. There's an administration within the human body that is happening as well. So that shows, that's also a sign of how whoever's organizing it, whoever made me, is the one who is in charge of taking care of me by that, taking care of all the administration within my body, and as me as a human being functioning. And H. Beza has some additional comments. H. Beza, would you like to speak, or would you want? No, okay, yeah. She's just explaining macroanthropos, how she understands it, just as the human being is a micro version of the universe. Yep, thank you, H. Beza. And as you said, the rosebud in 1,000 veils of unity. So the universe has layers and layers upon multiple ways the things are working in, and which gives the sign of unity. So if you can go to any little section or area of study, so you can study a particle and you can just lose yourself in that particle, where it's just a veil of another veil that shows the different qualities and the universal divine works and divine names, as he says. But it's just another veil of showing that they are all, whatever is happening, whatever the activity you see in that particular atom or particle is coming from that single source. And same thing if you see if you look at the skies and whatever you see, the motion of the clouds, and you can come to that same conclusion. Same thing with within your human body, you can come to that same conclusion. Within the seas, you can see whoever is arranging, organizing everything must be the same single source. So these are just the layer upon layers. Just in the rosebud, it's an unopened flower. It's a bud. But if you look at it, it shows that how everything is just enclosing something. It's all closed. So Osman, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
I am outdoors. I hope you can hear me well. I just wanted to, I guess, just reconfirm what you already said, in the sense of how I can, as a human being observing this world, come to the conclusion that he's indeed one. And you don't have to have a certain background to look at the world and come to that conclusion. Looking at the order at everyone's level, either you are studying, either you are looking at the universe, the sun comes up and the sun goes down, and how it interacts and connects with everything and gives life to everything. One can easily see the interconnectedness among all these parts, and internally one has to question, or as human beings, we have this curiosity of trying to investigate or ask the question of where is this order coming from. And for me, like the conclusion, well, the thought process is either every part is responsible for itself, in which case, how is it all interconnected? It's almost impossible to fathom that or to imagine that, or that indeed there is a one that is controlling all of this. And what's interesting about he is one, it doesn't matter what it is. He is, he, it, whatever it is, but the way we refer to it is by observing the world and concluding or inferring the existence. Just as we, like in our daily lives, we are always going through the process of inference, where you observe something, then you infer what might be the cause of it or what might be the source of it. We do this all the time, even the scientific method even relies on the concept of inference. You don't observe, you don't have a direct experience of things. We don't have direct experience of atoms, but we are sure that they are there in the sense that you use the method of inference. So it's quite interesting, this phrase on how it's formulated, that whatever it is one. I come to know it through inference, through this process of seeing what's behind it, or seeing the necessity of its existence from my interactions with the world. Jazakumullah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Osman. So we don't need any expertise, as you said. We are kind of in tune with all that. I appreciate that. This happens, as you said, with inference. As a human being, you can use your human qualities to find out that and see whatever is happening. Where is it happening? How is it come is happening? Thank you. And Sarah, please go ahead.
Also, what came to me was about he is one in relation to what we discussed so far with absoluteness. So what resonated with me from our last discussion was that there's a very repeated, strong message of this specific quality of ahadiyya, or absoluteness, in which what we will observe, the creation that we will see, will demonstrate that whoever makes it, wherever it came from, must be beyond what we know in this world, or beyond the nature of everything that exists in this world. So not only does unity for me point to the interconnectedness, which is very clear for observation, but also, and this is something that mashallah Dr. Ali repeats often and often all the time, but I think it's just starting to resonate and click experientially for me, because I get to witness this huge tree out my window now during this discussion. Everything that exists, if we just ask it, like, how did you get here? Like, how did you get here? How is it that you're here? Like, we necessarily will hear a response that's just, there is a giver of existence that gives me existence. And that's with every single thing that we observe. How did you arrive, or how did you come into this world? How do you exist? And the answer is there's a giver existence that's not in this world. So I think that there's a unity in that too. Like, so even if I didn't know that the tree was interconnected with, let's say, the sun or the water or the clouds or the stars, the fact that it exists necessitates unity, because it's a giver of existence, just like me. Just like I was given, I must have a giver of existence, then so does the tree. And I think that that unity also points to one, which is pleasant, because I don't have to think about the way everything is interconnected. Just the fact that it's like a spider, Brother Ali mentions like the spider or the fruit. I might not, necessarily see the interconnectedness of a spider to my life, or a bug. But the fact that it exists already points to a giver. And in that giver of existence, there is definitely unity, because we're all here only for that reason. If that makes sense.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you to Shakur also. He's getting some inspiration from your sharing your ideas. Alhamdulillah. Anybody else would like to say anything? I found it interesting how poetic this author kind of becomes sometimes. Single macroanthropos dressed dressed in unities to the number of divine names and universal divine works. It's not just in one place, universal all over the whole universe. And a single, like just like one single individual, it gives the easy, like the notion of easiness, just very comfortable and easiness on how this unity is being displayed and manifested. And dressed in unities to the number of divine names and universal divine works. This is an interesting phrasing also. So there, whatever you're studying, whatever you're looking at, multiple unities are pointing to the same conclusion. And in the unities also to the number of the divine names that, whatever the qualities that you are able to see in those things. I think later in the next paragraph, he does go into some detail into it, so we'll look into that. And the mention of a Tuba-tree, which is like a Quranic word used as, mostly referred to as paradise. So the universe is a Tuba-tree of creation because it has all the manifestations of the divine names and the divine works is being experienced in this universe. So these are all glimpses that we get on the branches of which are hung, the tree, just the whole universe like a tree on the branches of which are hung unities to the number of realms of creatures, whatever you see in existence. That particular thing points to is a sign of unities, and that concludes again to that he is one. All right, so before we move on to the next paragraph, any other comment anybody would like to share?
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, I can't find my the hand raising one. I'll figure it out. But so that's why I just jumped in really quick. But yeah, I was gonna add to what everyone has said. I think this is often said in these last few weekends that this section is different than the issues mentioned in the previous books, or this book is trying to emphasize something in addition to what's already been emphasized in the previous books, right? I think this is, I don't have the text in front of me, but that's what I understand. And so when you think about experiencing something now in your life, it should be kind of, you need some kind of these metaphors or ideas through which you can try to apply what you're understanding logically, or what you already concluded, like in the previous books, you had already read and understood that this one exists. But here the emphasis, I think, is like now going to the issue of what you can experience within your with this, with regards to this. So these last few sentences and the points I think that were mentioned start to go now into how to understand this, how to apply this within your not just thinking, but your feelings also. So, for example, the statement right before what you mentioned, Asim, the universe is like a rosebud swathed in 1,000 veils of unity. This phrase in particular, I think, is really interesting. Swathed in 1,000 veils of unity, because the veils of unity is an interesting description, right? Because veil, something that is covered or hidden, through which something is hidden. So the unity, if I understand correctly, the unity is not hidden. Unity is present. Or let's say, and you can help me understand it, but there's something that the unity is pointing to, which is as though a veil. So when you look at the world, you look at the universe is not directly showing you what who's there and what's responsible for it, but the unity does. So like Osman said about Othman, sorry, said about inference, you don't see it directly, so it's a veil to it. But as though it's a veil, as though you cannot see, but at the same time you can see because you can use inference. So that's interesting. That what we see are like these constant veils going on in each level of the creation we see, and each one is its own separate set of unity, but they're all united together too. But this just a phrase, veils of unity, or 1,000 veils of unity, is an interesting phrase, and it's, I think, a very helpful one to understand how to be conscious about this oneness, but at the same time experience it within the things we see here. And you know, the more you see, the more you are aware, or the more you can expand your awareness of it. So your understanding, I think, will grow, and your, I don't know, experience of it grows, if it makes sense.
Yeah, thank you very much for explaining that. You're right about this author's work. This is the 4th section, as you said, also. And it speaks to a lot of our experiences and thoughts. And the 1,000 veils, I mean, it implies that whatever you study, whatever you look at, is basically a veil in terms of, and you can infer from that whoever is in charge, whoever is showing me that, is the one. Is a single one. So the veil is basically what shows me the unity in terms of, as he said, like initially, he said there's unity in everything. So whatever, so if you look at the universe, you can just see that as a rosebud, and there's just multiple veils continuously coming. And you can, just layer upon layer, unveil it. But each and every veil shows the signs of the unity. Yeah, and I think, I don't know, like, because this is a very tough kind of book to decipher sometimes. I feel that way, this race. And Brotherly kind of mentioned it also. And I'm missing his presence right now, because there might be things, that I may not be seeing, but that's why I need all of your help, if you guys can help me. And I know Adam kind of hinted at this phrasing, and also, the way the macroanthropos dressed in unities just recalls, in at least my understanding, just brings about the different ways and easiness of how things are just being administered and working in a smooth, easy fashion. And this, of course, reference of Tuba-tree, I'm sure this author is very conscious, so I'm very careful with each and every word kind of he uses in his works, and where he uses. Of course, this is a technical word, and used mostly, it's coming from the Quran. And he says, on the branches of which are hung unities to the number of realms of creatures. Alia, please go ahead.
One of the things that came to me as we were discussing the levels of veils is an image that, like in medical school, we had to keep drawing the cells. So I remember, we draw the cells, there'll be little, squarish like structures with a nucleus inside, and color them. And then that's exactly what we'll see under the microscope. And then as years pass, you realize that the border of the cells, there's like a lot going in. And then after that, the basement of the cells, there's a lot going in. And then when you go into the border of the cells, then there's like, you know, there are doors that open and shut and ions that are moving. Then when you go into that, so as if every one of them was a veil. And when you go into the other level and you think, oh, I've got it, this is amazing, then there, like, you know, you realize, no, that's not the end of it. There's another level, another veil. And it keeps like the flower, like it's like, you know, like there's the outer, like the flower from outside looks beautiful, and then every layer of it until you get inside, and then still there are more and more, and things that every time, like as years passed, like, you know, every time there's another veil that is discovered, and every time you discover it, you're in more and more awe. So this imagery like just came to me from like how, like even now when medical students draw those cells, they don't draw them the way I used to draw them anymore. Like they don't look that simplistic. So those veils, like now when you look at all of them, yes, like veils of unity, they can only point to the same, like for me, they're all, there's a signature, and even without looking under the microscope, just the signature of beauty. There's like, and that signature of that you find yourself drawn to this beauty, and whatever level you're looking at, there is order, there is beauty, there is wisdom, there's a function, things are interconnected, and the more deeper you go, the more amazing it becomes. So I think, like for me now, that expression of Nursi about the veiling layers makes more sense. Jazakumullah khair for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that really beautiful description of, as Sarah said, the imagery. It also brings to mind about our understanding, human understanding. I feel that way also sometimes. I'm sure you guys can relate to that also. Just when you think, you got it, like, oh yeah, that's an interesting aspect. You know, this happens to me a lot. You know, it happens to me in my profession. You know, in the fields that Osman probably knows also. You know, machine learning kind of scenarios, and you just say, oh my God, this is happening. Wow, it's another level of veil that kind of comes through. Okay, thank you. Ali, your hand is up. Go ahead. Yeah, unless it's from before.
I'm sorry, I need to put it.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. Okay, so anybody else? If not, we can continue to the next paragraph. All right. So yes, the administration of the universe is one and the same. The administration of the universe is one and the same. And the administration and the universe's regulation is one and the same. And the universe's regulation is one and the same. Its sovereignty is one and the same. Its stamp is one and the same. 1,001 things are all one and the same. Also, although the names and acts which make the universe turn are one and the same. Although the names and acts which make the universe turn are one and the same, they each encompass the universe, or most of it. That is to say, the wisdom that works in it is one and the same. The bestowal in it is one and the same. Its regulation is one and the same. The providing of sustenance in the universe is one and the same. The mercy, which hastens to assist the needy, is one and the same. The rain, which is that mercy's dispenser of soft drinks, is one and the same, and so on. Thousands of things are all one and the same. The sun, the universe's stove, is one and the same. The moon, its lamp, the universe's lamp, is one and the same. Fire, the universe's cook, is one and the same. Its mountains, which are its stores, treasuries and masts, are one and the same. Its water dispensers are one and the same. The universe's sponges, which water the gardens, are one and the same. 1,001 things are all one and the same. MashaAllah. This author is amazing, actually, the way he puts all the examples here forth, how to see the universe. And everything, as he says, is the one and the same. Basically, they're all veils to the qualities of the one, that he is one, basically conclusion of he is one, the absolute one. So the administration of the universe is one and the same. And if you look at the regulation that goes on, the administration is one, done by the same. The sovereignty in terms of ownership and the taking care of is one and the same. The stamp, like whatever they say, their existence shows, whatever the acts, whatever they show, whatever, activity that is observed in the universe bears that stamp of one and the same. So you can continue on, and he says also, although the names and acts which make the universe turn are one and the same. So also the names and acts which make the universe turn are one and the same. They each encompass the universe, or most of it. So the names and acts which are at play continuously in the universe, they each encompass the universe, or most of it. That is to say, the wisdom that works in it is one and the same. So it's that single one absolute wisdom that is at play here, at working here. The bestowal, again, absolute, at the absolute level, regulation at the absolute level, provision at the absolute level, mercy, sustenance, mercy at the absolute level. And then he goes the rain, which is at the mercies, which is that mercy's dispenser. So it is coming from the mercy. It's an act basically that is under the umbrella of mercy, is one and the same. Thousands of things are one and the same. And then he gives, how the functioning of each and every major element. For example, the sun and as the universe's stove, the moon as its lamp, fire that we use every day, all the time, as the cook. So these are all the acts. So each element is also, again, performing their acts the way they are created, what they're meant for. And they all point to, again, as a veil, but they conclude to that he is one. So if anybody else wants to comment on anything in this paragraph, Fariha, please go ahead.
So it's interesting how he starts off with the quality of how we see things being administered, like really obvious observations. He's mentioning regulation, and it's not only what we observe, but there's like sea world, there is soil world, forest world, galaxy world. There's so much, and it's still being discovered. But then really, how is it being regulated? Like, how do we explain everything intact? And just like everybody else gave the example, Sarah's mentioning about how the tree is standing nice and tall. That's definitely there is some kind of regulation, administration at play. And just like also mentioned about the communication between the various roots, branches, we observe all these qualities. And so it's also interesting, I think, going back to that analogy of the carpet, how each thread makes the whole carpet. Like, I cannot separate one thread from the rest of the carpet. So I think as far as the qualities that we observe as well, is also just like they're all interrelated, point to that same one. So we can't even separate that from the rest of the other qualities that we experience. So it's interesting how he introduces our regular observations in the universe, and from there on, even with those qualities, that they're all point to this one, and that one is the same. For example, a quality that I know observed by just looking at the tree, it points to the same one from another experience of a quality that one experiences by just maybe looking at birds. So that was interesting.
Thank you for, yeah. So based on your comment, you're trying to explain the interconnectedness, whatever you look at in the, as you said, that each knot, each thread is what makes the whole carpet. And so everything that we see in the universe, each and every being, creation, act that we see points to, that shows that there's signs of unity, that they're coming from that being. But then they all must exist within that. They're all connected together, right? Just like you said in the carpet example. All right, thank you. So any other comment or any other imageries anybody want to share? Sarah, please go ahead.
I'm not sure that I really can add in words, but I just felt like there is really immense relief in that repetition of the one and the same, one and the same, one and the same. And then I just wondered, like, the repetition, like Dr. Yamina, Brother Ali repeats, is like repetition points to something that's very, very important in the Quran and in those who, are deciphering the meaning that's imparted on them through the Quran. So the one and the same, the one and the same, the one and the same, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a lot. It's a lot of one and the same. And then I suppose what occurs to me in that message of one and the same, again, like, I can only speak to my human observations in a Brooklyn neighborhood of a tree, some birds, and I would have never really found much relief. This has been the same tree that I've seen for a very long time, but I think from the past week, there's been like some amazing connection now with this tree. And the birds, because of this new sort of discovery that this speaker is really sharing repeatedly. So whoever administers and regulates, like Fariha's saying, sovereignty, sovereignty, I think the Arabic words would be helpful, just to kind of see what Quranic concepts are being shared. But I think of sovereignty as like someone who owns something, but it's also upkeeping it, with regulating it. Wisdom is also mentioned, bestowal, again, regulation, again. And so it's like I'm interacting with this tree and then I'm seeing this regulation happening. Whoever is feeding the birds is the one feeding me. Whoever is administering, being the boss over this tree in the way that it's, growing, and the way that it's being taken care of on a daily is the same one who's administering me. It's the same one. So there comes like an opening to relief. I think that is sort of a relief of all burdens, because the same one administrating the whole universe, regulating the whole universe, this little bird somehow finding food randomly, somehow during cold winters and immense storms, still living and finding a way to be taken care of, is the one that's acting in my life. I just also feel like the moon and the lamp, like the fact that there's micro and macro, and then it points for me to that macroanthropos word. So I see a whole bunch of little things, or a big tree, and like little birds, a little squirrel, all of them finding food, finding their bestowal for the day, finding their care for the day in the freezing cold, or, whatever the conditions that the universe is presenting in. And to think that now everything that exists, right? Because if it's existing, then it's pointing to a single one that gives existence. If all of us all together are a macroanthropos, like Khadija Beza shared, this one living being functioning through a single living being, I find immense relief in that. It's not like we're all a bunch of individuals all trying to like hustle and bustle and figure out how to. This is saying, no, the administrator is one and the same. The regulator is one and the same. And it points to everything happening in my life, everything that's functioning outside my window. The regulator is one and the same. So I don't know if there's any clarity or relief that comes for anyone else in that. But for me, I find immense relief of burden, because it's right there. Like whatever you see, I used to say like 2 weeks ago, oh, there's nothing for me to see on this Brooklyn block except cement trucks. Like there's nothing to ponder about. It's really ordinary. But subhanAllah, somehow a week ago, the trees started speaking a little bit more, and the birds and the squirrels now. So I think that this author must have really been very critical about questioning how these things are here and how they're being taken care of, in order to have discovered in each thing and felt the need to, for every sentence, talk about the sun and the way, it's a universal stove, or the moon and it's a lamp for everyone, connecting me to it. And then to say that the one taking care of that and administering it, and it's like the owner of it, the provider of it, the sustainer of it, is all one and the same. I think it's just very helpful to hear. And I think that the message is very profound, because again, it points to the conclusion of Huwa Ahad, like there's only a single one functioning in the universe, sustaining, functioning, and we're just given the opportunity to really see how perfectly everything is taken care of. That's all.
Alhamdulillah, thank you for sharing your thoughts and comments on Brooklyn. It's becoming alive again, thanks to you. reviving of. Okay, I saw another hand up. Aliyah, would you like to go ahead and speak on that?
So, mashallah, Sarah, when you were speaking, what came to me is something that also has started to speak to me recently, which is the phrase that the Prophet ﷺ would say when he would look at creation and he would, like, say it out loud. So now that's how we know it. Rabbi wa Rabbuk Allah. Like he would just, I can imagine him just standing there and making that connection, like, Rabbi wa Rabbuk Allah. Like, so that connection that you're making, the one who is sustaining this tree is sustaining me with the hard, like, with the hard conditions of winter. He's still sustaining it, and in my hard life conditions, he's still sustaining me. And that connection, like before, for me, when I'd look at beauty, it would be just, that is so beautiful, and that would be the end of that. But now I'm trying to bring in Rabbi wa Rabbuk Allah. Like I'm trying to look at it and just say Rabbi wa Rabbuk Allah, and then, like, then try, like, what I'm trying to do is this stage that you're in, Sarah, which is like, what does that mean then? What does Rabbi wa Rabbuk Allah mean? It means, like, it's confirming, like, the oneness, the same Rabb, but it's also giving me assurance that I'm taken care of, that I am made with the same details, that I'm made beautiful, that I am valued, that all those things that I see, that I'm worthy, that, that this whole, this whole tree with everything in it is made for this little bird to come in the winter and find some food on, like, the remnants of the bark of the trees or something on the branch, and it knows it. So this whole universe is working to subserve, like taskhir. So Rabbi wa Rabbuk Allah came to me when you were speaking, Sarah. Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you for sharing that as well. Any other comments or points anybody wants to discuss on this paragraph? H. Beza, please go ahead.
Brother Adam, if you want to go first, that would be great, because I'm still trying to collect some thoughts in my mind, trying to organize them.
Take it away, Adam. Generous offer
Sorry.
from H.
Oh.
Beza.
Yeah, did I have my hand up? I didn't realize. I'm sorry. Anyway, but maybe I did. I don't know. Anyway, just maybe say some things. As we're reading this, I was trying to understand what the concern of the author is here. And in the beginning, when we started this section, there was this emphasis on trying to make it clear that there is no room for partners in this sovereignty and administration in the section we're now. But the general premise had to do with you and I living in this world, not allowing or not having any difficulty with the issue of seeing that the things have no partnership whatsoever in his or in this one who is creating and administering and reigning over all things. So in this section, it goes into more depth as we're going step by step. It seems progressive. So the way he described this now, it may, and the emphasis continuously on Ahad. I would just maybe say that, or Ahad means one, right? Or he is one. He is one. Huwa Allahu Ahad, but or doesn't matter. Arabic doesn't matter here. It's he is one. We're speaking in English. So he says in some parts here that there are different names to the number of divine names. Ahad is a divine name, as it's known in the kind of what we all know, maybe for some religious or background or whatever. we say Ahad. And of course, not just this, but more importantly, what we are studying here leads us to see that the things point to Ahad, oneness. So at the same time, there's divine names that are intersecting with this. But the Ahad, the one, he is one, is so important, so emphasized here. And it's interesting that the sister mentioned about relief. It reminded me of this famous narration, and that's famous, I think everyone maybe who's ever watched this movie, The Message, when you see that section where the companion of the messenger of God, he is put under really stress by the ones trying to hurt him, and he keeps saying Ahad there. But when I watched this when I was younger, I was a young person, it doesn't matter, I read that narration even, I didn't understand why he emphasizes Ahad. I keep using this Arabic word, one, he is one. So I understand he is becoming more and more aware, or using his conclusion that the things going on here are not able to allow for any partners with this one. There is no room for any kind of separation of the one who is doing all the things, and then these attackers or these antagonists, whatever, the ones who are hurting him, abusers. So he's able to bear all the things in his mind, in his heart, and in his physically even, through this consciousness. I don't, it's not our practice here usually to describe things like this or talk about it like this here, but I just reminded me when someone said something about relief. So I thought, well, how does this bring relief? And then I remember that story, or that story, and the fact that before I didn't understand what it was, why he would say that. What does it have to do with? But here, I think the story or the matter becomes very clear. And as I was saying, I think it has a lot to do with not allowing for any partners into what's going on, what he's experiencing, or what I or you are experiencing, and seeing absolute sovereignty, absolute power coming from the source. So nothing should allowed to be let in. Therefore, I don't see or experience anything else here. Although in common language we say that we experience it, of course, but I'm saying as we're studying here, what we should really be understanding. Okay, sorry. Hope that makes sense.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. As you said about, it's like he is one is the conclusion of this, as the Nursi kind of says this, the author of this book. And realizing this oneness or relief gives a relief, as the comments have been saying that, and that has to do, I think, with the phrasing of even this verse from the Quran about the way Qul Huwallahu Ahad goes through. Ahad is like the conclusion of it, and then it tries to goes and explains that don't see that there is absoluteness in the creation, and you can conclude that there is the sovereignty and absoluteness there, and then you can see that there's no partner that shares any quality within what Ahad signifies. And I see Suhail is here. I don't know, Suhail, would you like to speak to that? I know I'm just kind of pushing you here or putting you on the spot, but I mean, feel free if you would like to add on the Qul Huwallahu Ahad part. Sarah, please go ahead.
I was going to say that I think Khadija wanted to share something as well. And if not, then I can share what comes to my mind, but I wanted to hear.
Sure, thank you. I guess just what I was thinking about before with the comments was, you know, going back to the carpet example, how within creation or within a carpet, each thread or each each thread is different than one another, yet they're one and the same insofar as what they point to, or the wholeness of that which makes up the carpet and the design on it and its purpose. So what came to me was this emphasis on not just each knot within the carpet, but you know, in the way that it's been organized and the way that it's been tied together, and the way that it's being maintained, how each knot is made out of threads, right? And each thread is made out of threads as well. So basically what I'm trying to say is the way in which things come into existence is one, and in a way it looks to it bears the same stamp of oneness as the way in which things exist. So there's this sense of like meta referencing of the one in, again, in both the way that all of these things within the creation exist, or come into existence rather, the way in which they come into existence, and at the same time the way in which they exist. And so it feels like, you know, if again, if we go back to the carpet example, I'm part of this endless number of knots intertwined together, tied together. So I myself am a thread, and then when I look at myself, I am made of endless threads, and I am essentially being tied together with everything around me, pointing to one who is administering, regulating, maintaining everything all at once together. But the main point that I'm trying to make, and I don't think I've expressed it very well, but was just, again, the way in which things come into existence, all of these different things, and despite their differences, you know, in shape, color, form, size, function, purpose, and wisdom in terms of the order of the universe is concerned, the way in which they come into existence, and then again the way in which we're given existence, that the way in which we exist in a meta sort of way, all look to the same one, which I found very interesting for myself, because no matter what sort of angle I try to approach anything in existence from, it reminds me that I am part of this immense, intricate design, and everything is, you know, intertwined together and connected to one another. And yet, despite all of these differences and different connections, that we all look to the one and the same. So it dispels that sense of loneliness, or that sense of lack of insecurity, existential need that I find myself with.
Beautiful. Thank you, Chbeza, for highlighting that. As you said, like, for example, everything, as you see in creation, you look at, as you said, shape, size, form, those are all but qualities. Each quality, whenever you experience mercy, is actually him, the one. Provision is actually, again, him, the one. Is the same, the one. Rain is, again, points to him, the one. So each quality, each thing that you interact with, again, brings into mind the absoluteness, or the one. But I would like I see Suhail's hand is up, so I will give him the mic. Thank you.
Hey, assalamu alaikum. Just from what I heard, the last few comments. So sorry if this is like some repetition, but it's it's kind of easy, sort of in life, or like myself, or hearing others say, why can't, practically speaking, why can't you just go about your day? Why can't you just eat, or why can't you just talk, or why can't you just work, or think, or feel, or experience something without anything more than that? And that's kind of, I guess, I don't know, maybe a disease of modern civilization. I don't know. I didn't live 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, so I don't know what it was like then. Or maybe it's a human affliction, but to not think something beyond that. And what he's saying here is that you can't just do that. That's impossible, because the conclusion is always he is one, or it always returns to an absolute source. And if you think about one thing being connected to an absolute source, and therefore all things being connected to an absolute source, and therefore all things being one and the same, how can then you take one thing and disconnect it from its absolute source? That's impossible. I mean, the fact that absolute's the conclusion of all things, or everything returns back to its creator, its source, creator of the holy heavens and the earth. The great injustice is the individual who cuts off that connection, and not God. And as Hatija Bezos was saying, you can find that connection anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are or when you are. So I guess like when you were born, or where you are, where you were born, or where you live, or where you're going. That conclusion is inescapable, because that conclusion sort of permeates, the complete expanse of existence, because that's what belief is. Belief is all-encompassing. It's a universal, or it's a complete worldview. While people were commenting, I was thinking, to make a connection to another place he's written about the ascension. I think he sort of alludes to that, while he doesn't may say it here, but talking about the ascension, prophetic ascension, every individual can make his own ascension to the creator. And what it requires is this, essentially thinking about the things in your life that you're going through. So let's say something that you find positive, let's say something merciful in your life, or compassionate, and you think about that thing, and then you make a connection between the merciful things around you, the manifestation of mercy around you, whether within your immediate environment amongst other human beings, or the environment outside, plants and animals, or the environment of the world, or the solar system, other planets, stars, the cosmos. You can go, and I guess it's like a concentric circle, go and connect your one experience of mercy, or multiple experiences of mercy. I mean, there are an infinite manifestations of mercy, really, but if you just think about one is sufficient, which is very interesting. And you can connect those to all other aspects you can reflect on of mercy in this world at the same time, and draw yourself, or ascend, so to speak, to the creator. And which is really, ascension is really ascending to your conclusion, which is an absolute source. That's the end in which you're ascending to. I mean, you can do that with any sort of quality or name that you experience in this world. So that was one thing I wanted to add.
Thank you, Suhail, for adding that. Would you like to continue, or? Okay, thanks. Sarah, would you like to add anything?
I don't know, mashallah. I think Suhail really, mashallah, just said what was coming to me is like this concept of this very fundamental quality that is key, quintessential, like the pillar for us to be mindful of in our day-to-day is absoluteness. And I know in English it's like one, but like last week, what really struck me is that Dr. Ali said absolute for ahad. And for me, that was really striking because it's like, there's a one that's beyond that I can see, like Suhail said, in everything that exists, even if it's just one. And then the more you look at everything, it's all one and the same, one and the same, one and the same. And that one is beyond. So beyond our ability to even, it's a relief because like it takes you in a sense out of the every other quality becomes beyond in relation to absoluteness. It becomes, I just feel like every other quality then is in relation to absolute, like infinite, beyond, infinite wisdom, infinite bestowals, infinite care, infinite guarding, infinite protection, infinite. So then when I see the bird being fed, no, don't do that. Okay. It just, that absoluteness becomes beautiful because then there's the relief, like there's infinite, beyond in every single quality that I'll observe after that, which then covers sort of everything that I could potentially be worried or concerned about. That's all.
Alhamdulillah, thank you. So I also like the connection Suhail made about whenever you're interacting with any quality, the conclusion that you arrive at is again the absoluteness or the one, as you guys mentioned it. And also the ascension part was kind of interesting to me. I didn't think it in that terms, but of course, with anything in terms of your experience, whatever you're engaging yourself with, whatever qualities one gets involved with, and then realizing the absoluteness of the Lord, or that He is one, He's the absolute one or infinite one, as the your conclusion in your comprehension and understanding. I think it's something that, as Alia put a comment, that we should reflect more on what this ahad entails, what this absoluteness, what this, whenever we recite Qul huwa Allahu ahad, what that ahad actually means to me in my life, in my journey here. All right, thank you. There's a few minutes left, so if anybody has any comment, Suhail, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one more thing about the ascension aspect, or as he says, the conclusion of He is one. The degree to which you understand your conclusion, and that degree is sort of predicated upon your reflection, or the time you take to reflect and acknowledge the Creator. Really the time you take to come to a conclusion. Whether it's in prescribed prayers. I mean, that's possibility, but even in between prayers as well. So the degree to which you are aware, or I guess strengthen your conclusion by reflecting on any one thing, and therefore all things, is the degree to which you sort of come close or ascend to the Creator, the absolute source. So it's not really like a one-time conclusion, but it's a conclusion you can make in every moment and with all things. Hence why so many opportunities or so many moments are given, because to come to a conclusion about absolute one time is not that. I'll put it this way: to come to a conclusion about absolute is not a momentary, simply restricted to a moment, but it's all encompassing. So the conclusion not only has like a space dimension, so you are thinking about all things within your immediate experience, but also across time, so across your lifetime. And that's why the ascension isn't just like a one-time thing, at least for me, but it's something you're continuously experiencing because you're continuously concluding, or ideally continuously concluding and thinking and reflecting.
Good point, Sohail. Thank you for adding that and sharing that. Just like belief is not a one-time thing. Hey, I believe in God. But it's a journey. It's a continuous thing. And so our experiences that we go through, as you said, there are like opportunities for us to ascend and realize, depends on how much of human qualities we are engaging with and how much we are developing our human quality, human senses and feelings and the qualities that we are given with, how much they are trained. And that is a continuous journey as well. Very well, thank you. Is any final comments by anyone before we conclude for today? Inshallah. All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma alamtana. Innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wahum alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Al-Fatiha. Thank you, everyone. Inshallah, we'll catch up with you tomorrow and next week as well, inshallah.